Good morning. Welcome to Chem 1211 with your host, me, Dr. White. Now, if we were in class right now, it's COD, I'd tell you the first thing, which I don't have on, is my hearing is not the best. And notice I don't have my hearing aids on. Why? Because right above my monitor, I have huge 2 amplified speakers, so I can hear you. But if you do speak softly or with an accent or softly and with an accent, please be patient if I ask you to repeat a question. Now, the most important thing you'll learn this morning about me and about this class is the following, and listen carefully. There are no such things as a dumb question in my class. I'll say it again. There's no such thing as a dumb question in my class. If you have a question, ask it. That's why I'm here, to help you learn. So don't forget, in my class, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I practice it in my class. I practice it in my life. It took me until my 3rd year grad school, and I was taught that by someone I will always be grateful to, Dr. Larry Palavin, who was a postdoctoral fellow in our research group. I got my PhD in chemistry, organic chemistry from Michigan State. And I was giving a talk to our research group, and he asked me a question: could you show me the mechanism for this? Is something we're not going to cover in this class. And I did. And it was something that all undergrad chem majors should know. And afterward, I went to Larry and said, Larry, weren't you embarrassed asking that question? Something everybody should know. He said, why should I be embarrassed? I didn't know it. Now I do. And that's when I first learned, I came up with the phrase, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Always, always feel free to ask questions in my class. Now, we're online, and therefore, you can either ask a question by unmuting your microphone or use the chat. Now, sometimes when I'm in share screen, it's hard to see chat. I'll try and keep up. All right, let's get going. I'm assuming all of you are familiar with Blackboard. I should mention I also teach this semester at Elgin Community College. I've been teaching at both schools for a number of years. By the way, this semester you'll learn a lot personally about me. I better tell you up front, I have a PhD in synthetic organic chemistry, a good major part of my adult life. I worked in the chemical industry, whereas I was a senior research and development manager, and part of my job was to develop new molecules for sale. I have 10 US patents. And also part of my job, because I was quite good at it, was to go either to the plants that a company I worked for or to customers that bought from our company I worked for and solve their problems. So that got me into chemical plants, and it also got me all around the world. I worked for 2 Anglo-Dutch companies, mainly Dutch. So I spent a lot of time in Europe in the 80s, 90s. And then in 2000, I worked for an American company that had sites in England and Canada. So I know the real world, and I also been teaching for a while. All right, if you go to Blackboard, and you'll see it on there. You'll see my syllabus. Now, there's a problem with Blackboard. And the problem is sometimes when I change to share, what I think you're saying, you're not. And I learned that this summer. So every once in a while, I ask thumbs up people, which means if your video's on or if you use the little motion button at the bottom, can you see my syllabus? Give me a thumbs up. Can you see it? Thank you. All right. Now, what you're seeing is in Blackboard in my syllabus area or folder, and feel free to look at it or download it. We're going to have discussion. Now, this is an asynchronous course, but I'll be doing live discussions on Tuesday and Thursday. On Thursday, that will also conclude the lab. It's at Zoom, and I sent out a link, email this morning, further links in case you don't want to use this way with the password. And these meetings will be videotaped. And within 24 hours or less, they'll be on my YouTube station. You know, but I'm a YouTube star. And you'll be able, if you can't make it here or can't make the whole meeting, you'll be able to see these on YouTube. And other than like what I did this morning, talked a little before, everything you see in lectures will be in the YouTube video. I will also have my office hours on Monday and Wednesday night. At night from 6 to 7:15, or really 7:30, thereabouts. And here's the link. And I'm going to also share this with my Elgin Community College ECC office hour. Now, notice here, I have an office phone. That's really a voicemail box. And I'm trying to remember what year I last checked it. I think it's been about 4 or 5. I don't remember the password. Don't leave a message there. The best way to reach me is by email. And here it is, whitek@cod.edu. I check it minimum twice a day, every day, Saturday and Sunday too. Now, when I say that, I should tell you, all my life, I've been getting to bed about 11:15. I usually am up by 4:30, 4:45. This morning, I was checking it by 5:45, and I'll check it sometime later this afternoon or evening. Those are my two times. So I check it early in the morning, but that's the best way. And I always check it twice daily, including Saturday and Sunday. Now, there's a bunch of stuff in here I'm required to put in there by the school, not only me, but all faculty. And I'm going to skip it because you can look at it at your leisure. All right, the book is optional. You heard me talk about that earlier. You do need a chem lab kit, and I'd highly recommend that you get a calculator. You don't need a super expensive graphical one unless you want to. What has worked for me and many of my students for a long time is this Texas Instruments calculator. It's a scientific one. You can get it at most stores, like any big box store around here, for under $10 or there. I will ask you to have some sort of web camera or on your cell phone be able to send out a picture of you. And this is mainly when we take tests or you take tests. All right, I have here student behavior. I'm a pretty laid back guy. If you look at Rate My Professor, you'll see that people mentioned that I'm pretty easygoing. There are two things that get me upset, and you never want me upset. I don't want me upset. One is when people lie to me, and the other is when people cheat. I think of cheating as just a form of lying. Please don't. I will do what's in my syllabus. And over the years, I've been teaching as COD. I've only had to do it twice. I take it back, 3 times. Twice I caught someone cheating. Another, I had someone who had emotional problems and was disrupting my class. And having been a former senior manager in the chemical industry, trust me, I know how to deal with problems, especially people problems. And luckily, when I was in industry, I didn't have that many either. So let's get back to here. You're expected to follow the code of conduct, and it has in there things about cheating. You can read this on your own. I'll stop anybody who does anything like yelling, sexual harassment, or racial slurs. I do not tolerate that. If your behavior is unacceptable, like I said, this has only happened once in all the years I've been teaching at COD, and that is, I'll let you know. I'll send an email to you. Also, I'll talk to you privately in Zoom. And then I'll also copy the dean of students with that email. And if you don't change, I will give you an F. I won't drop you. You'll get an F. If your behavior is totally unacceptable, I'll get rid of you even quicker. Same way, you'll get an F, and I will let the dean of students know about that. If you cheat on a test or a final, you'll get a 0 for that grade, for that exam or final, and it can't be dropped. And I will let the dean of students and also my dean know about that. That's happened twice in all the years I've been teaching in terms of cheating. Now, I see a question. Hold on. The YouTube, someone asked, I missed it earlier. Thank you, first of all, for asking your question. If you go to my YouTube channel for Chem 1211, which I have a link in the syllabus, but if you're lazy, just go to YouTube, put in the search box, CHEMI space 1211 space COD, and you'll see I already have the YouTube videos for my summer, and today's video will be labeled 2020-08-25, then I'll have CHEMI 1211, then Zoom lecture, then I'll have underneath topics, and I'll describe what I have in there, and I also have this keyworded too. Hopefully that. Can I repeat what I said about the IDs? Are you talking about Zoom login or your own personal IDs? All right, let's talk about something unfortunate which has been happening. I've heard from other faculty, and that's been, there's been, once we switched to internet, a lot of cheating going on. I'm not accusing any of you cheating. And this summer, I don't think I had much, but I don't know. Tea break. And that is, there are a couple forms of cheating. One form was people had other people take the test. And that's where the ID comes. What I will ask, and I'm not sure how I'm going to set this up, there are various ways I can go. What I'm going to try and set it up is the way that's best for you and also helps eliminate cheating. No matter what I do, there's going to be some cheating going on. Just like no lock, there's never been a lock that has been invented that eventually can't be picked. But I want to try and minimize it. And there are a couple of forms of cheating. One form was someone had someone else take their test. And if I had it online where you're looking at a monitor and there's a different person, well, that's cheating. How do I do that? Well, you need to show me a photo ID. And I'll talk, I have to figure that out. And once I figure it out, so I've got some time before the first test, I'll let you know. There are various options, like have separate Zoom meetings, and you're each in a private one, and I'll have ask you to keep your web camera on, and there are other alternatives to that. What is it, Proctor U? I've heard from a number of you because I asked some people about their experience, or it turns out a lot of you have had bad experiences, and I probably won't, like almost won't use that, but there's other forms. Other form of cheating I've heard about was students being in groups while they were taking the test. No, these are individual tests. So it's part of my just responsibility that I should cut down on cheating if it, you know, at least the opportunity to. Hopefully you'll all be honest and take it, because my students do well. I can tell you this last summer, I had 24 students online, and listen carefully. Oh, by the way, Mary, you're welcome. And all questions are good questions. Thank you for your question. I had 24 students, and listen carefully. I had 22 students earn A's and 2 students earn B. Now you might say, well, are a lot of them cheating? And I don't think so. Why? Because a couple of years ago, I taught at COD where I was in the room where they were taking the test. I had 24 students taking 1211. I had 22 students earn A's and 2 students earn B's. and that's with me being present. So if you follow what I'm going to teach you, how to study and prepare, you can do quite well in chemistry. All right, let's get back to the syllabus because I want to finish that. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's important. Let me ask my thumbs up people. Can you see the syllabus again? Again, I apologize for doing this. I've tried to contact Zoom. I'll try again. All right, so this is very important. And do not ask any questions now about this, but see me in private. If you are a special needs student, I have been working strongly and closely for many years with the Center for Access and Accommodations. I will bend over backwards and do anything that's needed to meet your needs. Please contact me in private, either at my office hour or by email, to let me know what your special needs are, and I will help you. One of the things that helps for special needs is the fact that I'm putting my YouTube on my videos of this lecture on YouTube. What you don't know is in 2017 for Chem 1212 and in 2019 for Chem 1105, I actually videotaped in the lecture room all my lectures and posted those on YouTube. They're available now. Like I said, I'm a YouTube star. Not really, but it helps all students, including my special needs students. So if you're a special needs student, see me in private, and I will always help you. Oh, whatever that was. All right, let's talk about important things for this semester that are, first of all, there'll be 4 tests this semester. Here's the tentative schedule. Why tentative? Because if there's well, we don't have to worry about a snowstorm or if the school shuts down because we're online, but if things happen, and one of the things that happens is if I feel the class could use a couple extra days before I give a test, so they'll do better on the test. I don't know what those strange noises are, but make sure everybody have your microphone muted, please. I changed the date. And there'll be a final exam. I have this as the date listed. I'm going to talk more how I'm going to give exam. Actually, I'm still figuring that out. But in the summer, I gave a time range for you to take the exam and get it uploaded back to me. The exams I give, you'll download it. And let's talk about this for real quick. All right, I'll be giving exams by sending out a PDF file that's password protected. Then I'll send out the password. Now, relax. This is Scotty. I don't understand, Diana, your question. Why don't you rewrite it or say it? If I don't answer it, see me after. Because you have the study guide will be. I'll talk more about study guides or actually my lecture notes or whatever. But anyways, what I did was do that. If you don't have a printer, which some of you don't, you can read it online or even on your cell phone. I had one person do that. And then you can write the answers again if you don't have a printer on paper. And then I have on Blackboard. By the way, if I say D2L, that's the computer system at ECC, and sometimes I get them mixed up. But Blackboard, how to, with a cell phone, take your answers if you wrote them out, or if you don't have a scan, if you printed them out, and send them back to me via Blackboard as a PDF file. It worked well for 4 tests in the final this last, and also my labs this last summer. So it should work well for all of you. If you have any problems, let me know and I'll help you out because we figured it out this summer and it worked well. Makeup policy. This I wrote before. There's been a slight change where it says assigned doctor's letter approved to me. This now is all handled through the Center, Access and Accountability Center, but I'm pretty lenient on this. My job here is to help you. All right, let's look at what's most important to all of you right now is how do you get a good grade in my class? Well, you're going to take 4 tests, and the sum of the 3 highest tests will be worth 47% of your grade. The final exam will be worth 32%. Relax, students do well under this. The lab will be worth 21%. Now, I have what's called your student percentage or percentage. That's the sum of your 3 highest test scores from your hourly exams, your final exam score, your lab points, and I'll give 1 extra credit project I usually do for 10 points, which students like, which makes me happy too. And you multiply that times 100 divided by 632, which is the maximum total points, you get a percentage. If you get 90 and above, you get an A, 80 to 89, B, 70 to 79, C, 60 to 69, D, and less than 60, F. And like I said, this summer, I had 22 A's and 2 B's. And in the past, usually when I teach at COD during fall and also spring, I expect about 60 to 70% of my class to get A's because I know how to teach. And if the students do what I want, what I recommend, they'll do well. In terms of withdrawal, that's all handled through the registrar. I have nothing to do with this. In the last day or two, they've changed this. I think this is now November 14th, not the 15th. Incompletes, if you have an extreme emergency and you can document it, the documents go through I have to be submitted to the Center of Access and Accountability. I have given incompletes. Usually it's happened 3 times. And what it was where students were pregnant and gave birth a couple days before the final, which in my book, that definitely guarantees an incomplete. Here's the tentative schedule, and I usually stick to this. I have both the test dates and what chapters from the book, even though you're not buying the book, I follow what's in the chapter, but I've changed and added to it, made it better. That's why you don't have to buy the book. And I don't follow the actual order because I think this is better for you than the way it's in the book. But I will follow this. Like I said, this is in the syllabus. If you ever have any questions about this, always feel free to ask me questions because there's no such thing as a dumb question. Now, the lab should be interesting. I just received this, so this is no longer true. You need to purchase the lab kit. You should follow the code of ethics for labs. Now, we're going to have 13 labs. I'm going to take the top 12. Each lab is worth 11 points. And we'll be doing labs. Actually, you'll be doing them in your home. And the lab reports are to be handed in. I'll be sending out via the assignment area of Blackboard an assignment for each lab, and you'll download it. I'll have the lab both as a Word and a PDF file. What you'll do is put in data from what you'll do at home, or I'll provide you data if things are pretty, I think should help make the lab better. And you'll also answer some questions I'll have there. You'll hand it in by uploading it by a certain date. What I always do is the labs, the way I have it scheduled, will start on Thursday and you have until next Thursday, a whole week, to hand them back in by uploading them via Blackboard. Now, if your lab is late, you lose 2 points. If it's more than 8 days late, you'll lose, get 0 points. And the reason for this is every week now I'll have about 40 labs to grade from this class, another class that I'm teaching at ECC. And for some people to show up the last week of class with 10 labs, I just don't have time to do that. And that happened years ago when I was teaching, and I put this in so you wouldn't do that. Now, if you notice, to be determined, just a couple of days ago, I finally got the labs from our department chairman, and she sent them out, and I've got to reduce some of them heavily, I've noticed, and I'll be filling this in during the semester. This week, you don't need the kit. Now, at the very end, and I have a copy of this in Blackboard in the syllabus area, and I'll be setting it up as an assignment, 0 points, but this is called your agreement. In fact, let me do something different right now. Not different. All right, you all should see, and give me a thumbs up if you see it, what I call, where you see here where it says print your name. Everybody see that on the screen? Give me a thumbs up if you see it. Don't you see it? All right. This is black. Zoom is telling me you see it. Now do you see it? All right. That's the problem with Zoom. Zoom told me you saw it and you weren't. All right. This is what I call the signature sheet or the student agreement. And you can print this out or write it out if you don't have a printer. I also have both in Word and PDF. In PDF, you can print on the document that you've read the syllabus thoroughly, understand my policies, and you understand that it's your responsibility to abide by these policies, and you understand that failure to abide by these policies result in the consequences outlined in my syllabus. I need a signature, either electronic and a date, and this, and upload it. If you want, handwrite it out if you don't have a printer and you don't know how to write on a PDF. And I need this before the first test. In fact, I like it next 10 days if possible. Because if you don't, I won't grade your first test and you'll get 0 points. It's my way of making sure you get it. I'd rather, Rhea, have you upload it via the assignment area, and I'll do that later on. Now, someone says, attendance is not mandatory. That's why I'm uploading everything on YouTube. So if you have questions, it's better to come and ask me live. But if you can't make it because you have a conflict, this is technically a net class, which means it's asynchronous, which is how I'll be doing it. And so that way you don't really have to come to the Zoom meetings because you'll be able to see me on YouTube. Now, someone asked, how shall we turn this signature sheet? What I'll be doing later today is setting up an assignment in Blackboard. You go to Blackboard, click on the assignment area, and you'll see signature sheet or whatever I'm going to call it. And that's where you'll download. I'll have both files, even though it's also in the syllabus area. And you'll upload it via that way. I think that's the safest as opposed to me getting it by email. Why? Because I have 4 email accounts. Yep, 4. One from COD, one from ECC, Elgin Community College, my personal and my business. I do a lot of chemical consulting. It's quite lucrative and also augments what I get paid from COD and ECC. which allows me to do a lot of nice things, which is a good thing. So that's how you do it. If you're not sure, and the reason why I brought that up, email accounts, I think daily with all four of those, I get anywhere between 50 and 100 emails a day. And I try and catch them all, but if you upload something, once in a while, an email will slip through the cracks and I forget to open it. But like this morning at COD, when I opened up my email account and I checked it last evening, I had about 12 new emails. I'll probably have the same at ECC. So at least I'll have 20, 25 just through those two accounts. All right. Any questions on the syllabus? You can always email me. You can come to my office hours, which are Monday and Wednesday night. All right, let's go through a couple of important things. One is you should learn something about Dr. White. I'm a very selfish person. Yes, and how am I selfish? I love things that make me happy. That's how I'm very selfish. I like things that make me happy. And one of the things that makes me happy is to see students succeed and get good grades in my class. It doesn't give me any joy to see students get a D or an F, or even a C, but D's or F, that makes me unhappy because I haven't done my job and that you haven't done your job. So remember, I'm here to help you get the best grade you're willing to work for, and I'll help you any way I can. And because I want to be happy, and seeing you people succeed make me happy. That's one thing. All right. Another thing I should tell you about is what's the best way to study for chemistry? And the answer is I need to talk about bicycles now. Bicycles? Yep, bicycles. Let's assume I'm the nicest guy you've ever met. I am, but let's assume I am. And being the nice guy I am, and you don't know how to assume you don't know how to ride a bicycle, I give you the best Blu-ray that's ever been made on how to ride a bicycle. You have your big screen TV and your Blu-ray player, and you watch that Blu-ray on how to ride a bicycle. And you slow it down, you watch it frame by frame. At the end of a month or so, you know that thing backwards and forwards, but you don't know how to ride a bicycle yet. So what do? You get on the bicycle, what happens? You fall off. You get on again, you practice, and eventually you get good at it. Chemistry is the same way. It is. And how is that? If you don't practice, you'll fall off on the test. You'll see me do the problems and I'll say, oh, that doesn't look. In terms of homework assignments, I have practice problems, which I'm going to get to. You're a little ahead of me, which is also good because all questions are good questions. And how do you practice? You do the practice problems. Now, I'm not making a mandatory where you got to hand them in. I never do that. I never have. But if you read ratemyprofessor.com, students will all say, do my practice problems if you want to get a good grade. And that's like riding the bicycle. You can see me, and you'll see me online because I have a tablet. So it'd be like I'm in a classroom writing on the whiteboard, doing problems. Oh, that doesn't look too hard. Just like watching the Blu-ray until you try it alone. And you got two places you can try it alone. One, only on the test, and you're going to fall off. Or two, practice, and you'll learn. After the first test, you'll know why I call them practice problems. But anyways, I have a sense of humor and I use it. Some days I have good humor days, well, you just got to suffer through it. So do I. But anyways, seems like I'm having a good humor day today. But practice, practice, practice. Now, most of you are not old enough. I'm a little older than most of you, really. But how many of you have ever heard of one of the greatest sports stars in Chicagoland history, Michael Jordan? And Michael Jordan was probably one of the top players that have ever played in the NBA. And back when he played for the Bulls and he was the best of the best of the best, you'd always see on TV or in the newspapers a story saying, Michael Jordan, he's the best. And he's always the first on the practice court and the last off. And people would be amazed, well, why does he have to practice? Because that's what kept him the best. And the same thing in chemistry. So that's my advice to you. Do the practice problems on your own. Don't just look at the answers. Actually try them. If you have problems doing it, you can always ask questions in class or on Zoom, or come to my office hours. You can do it by email, but this way, or my office hours are easier for you and me, even though I do answer questions via email. After each chapter, well, actually, while I'm doing the chapter, during my lectures here, I'll say something like, next Tuesday, I'll be going over the practice problems on Zoom, some of them for chapter, let's say 2. I'm not, but let's just say it was that. And next Tuesday, I'll do that. And by saying that, you'll know which practice problems you should be doing. Hopefully that helps. All right, something I like to do right now, and that is if your video is not on, use the reaction button if you can get to that for Zoom. How many of you are here because you're planning on getting a beautiful, exciting career in chemistry? Raise your hands or give me a thumbs up. Uh-oh, no one. How many of you are here because you have an undying love for chemistry? Raise your hand or do a thumbs up. Uh-oh, no one. How many of you are here because someone said you have to take Chem 1211 for either a major you're in or to get into a program or school? Give me a thumbs up. Oh my God, all of you have. Guess what? I already knew that, because if you were a chem major, you wouldn't be in Chem 1211. You'd be another chemistry 2 semester. But now you know that I know you're not planning on being chemist, and you also know I'm not going to try and convert you to being a chemist. But the nice thing about the semester and the fact that I've lived in the real world of chemistry is my world of chemistry is your world of chemistry. And you'll learn a lot about it. You just don't know about it. And how many of you have heard people say, I hate chemistry? Or maybe you even feel you hate chemistry. Can you keep a secret? My older sister in high school hated it, and if it wasn't for my father, who was a pharmacist who knew chemistry real well. I wonder why I became a chemist. Well, anyways, he helped her get through it, and to this day, she hates chemistry with a passion. I don't, obviously I don't, I got a PhD in it. Well, let's think about chemistry. How many of you have been outside and feel the wind on you? That's chemistry. Those are molecules of oxygen and nitrogen hitting you very hard. Now, how many of you have used that magic device in your house called the towel? Your hands are wet, you go like this on the towel, all of a sudden you're dry. Is that magic? No, that's chemistry. Let's think about something else. Oh, see the color of my shirt? That's chemistry. If you look at the printer behind me, the material that makes that is chemistry. By the way, I'm coming to you from COD North, otherwise known as my office in my home near Woodfield. And by the way, that is a picture from my all-time favorite movie, Forbidden Planet. And here's stuff, my hobby is electronics. But anyways, all this stuff is made up of molecules and atoms, and that's chemistry. Same thing for this light, my wall, the paint on the wall. How many of you like to drink water? keeps you alive. Guess what? The stuff in this bottle is a chemical. Yep, not to scare you, but it is. Water is really a chemical, and that keeps us alive. I should mention the last time I had biology was freshman year of high school. God, that was too long ago. Not that there's anything wrong with biology, but by then I even knew I wanted to be a chemist. But water keeps you alive. So let's think about it. Water is chemistry. Oh, your skin is chemistry too. The air you're breathing is chemistry. Things like your printer, your cell phone are made up of things that's chemistry. So isn't it obvious why you should be learning chemistry? Because someone told you you had to take this class. That's why you're here. But I know that, and hopefully I'll make it fun. I see a question. Yes, Mr. Green Cleaner is chemistry, so is your soap, so is your detergent, so is your gasoline that you put in a car. All that is chemistry. So when I hear someone say, I hate chemistry, what they really mean is I hated learning chemistry, which meant they had a pretty awful teacher, because chemistry is really fun. But I'm biased, I'm a chemist. All right. As I look at the clock here, one of the things I've been teaching long enough, I learned that after lecturing for a certain amount of time, or in our case, also sitting, like you, your brain shuts down. And that's not good. I'll go a couple more minutes and then we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll continue on. But let's move on. I have too many files open. Zoom gets upset. All right, what you see on the screen right now, can everybody see the Chemical World Chapter 1? Give me a thumbs up real quick. Thank you. Again, Zoom, and I'm going to try and contact them again. They have a problem with that. Also, when I'm in share, sometimes it's hard for me to get to the chat. Let's see something. Let me try something here. Nope, that didn't work. All right. All right, let's move on. I saw someone have a question. I'll pick it up in a second. This is chapter 1 if you had bought the book, but it's called Chemical World. And the first question is, what's chemistry? What you're seeing on the screen is in the lecture folder of Blackboard as both a Word file and a PDF, and you're free to download it and look at it anytime you want. Now, what is chemistry? Well, it's the study of composition, structure, and properties and reactions of matter. I'm never going to ask on a test, what's chemistry? Every once in a while, I will tell you what's important and what's not. Let me stop sharing here for a second so I can get to chat. For those who have to leave, thank you for staying as long, and just pick up on YouTube. All right, so when we talk about chemistry, there are 4 main branches of chemistry. Hint, you should know this. What are the 4 main branches? Organic chemistry, that's at the top because that's the best. I'm an organic chemist. Inorganic chemistry, physical chemistry, and analytical chemistry. Organic chemistry originally got its name organic because it was chemicals, substances that came from things that are alive or were alive. Inorganic got its name because that was with substances that were from things that weren't alive ever, like rocks. And physical chemistry deals with various ways things interact, like how atoms bond and the actual mathematics of that chemistry. Analytical chemistry deals with measuring things. How many of you have seen the CSI programs like CSI Miami? And I don't watch those because I find them too fake. But the chemists in those shows are all analytical chemists because they're measuring things like the blood and all the other stuff police measure. So on a test, if I ask you, give the name of one of the 4 branches of chemistry, 2 points. You can put any one of these 4, but the best one is organic chemistry. Why? Because I'm an organic chemist and I'm biased. Now, when we talk about chemistry, terms I'll use, and I'll never ask you for a definition, but I should talk about it. One is a chemical. That's any matter used in or produced by a chemical process, also known as a chemical reaction. And a substance, that's a chemical that consists of one type of matter and always has the same composition of properties wherever it is. And I use them interchangeably. This is a substance. Water you can call a substance, and water you can call a chemical. I'll never ask you on a test, and by the way, all of you have each other as witnesses. I said that, but I'll use these terms so you should know what I'm talking about. Now, let's take a 5-minute break, come back at 10:55, because I'm going to go stretch. If I don't, from sitting so long, I'll get cramps in my leg, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. right, welcome back. In case you forgot, I'm still Dr. White. This is still Chem 1211. And more importantly, remember, there's no such thing as a dumb question in my course or in my life. All right, we're talking about chemistry. And let me get back to my slides. Hopefully you all can see chemicals and substances on your screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. All right. Now, chemicals are in your lives, as I mentioned earlier. Everything in your life is made up of tiny particles called atoms. These atoms are bound together to form molecules, and I'll talk more about this. One of the things I like to do when I teach chemistry is make it relevant to your daily life. An example of a chemical you don't think about, carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. If you drink pop, by the way, I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area, and the carbonated beverage in a can or bottle that's non-alcoholic, we call pop, not soda. By the way, Dr. White loves Dr. Pepper and Verner's. If you've never had Verner's, you should. They sell it at Jewel. I don't get any kickbacks. I wish I could find a way to do that, but I don't. Also beer, champagne. The bubbles in there are carbon dioxide. And when you burp, most of your burp is carbon dioxide. That's the way your body getting rid of one waste. So next time you see a friend burp, you say, no, that's carbon dioxide coming out of you, and that's chemistry. No, don't, you'll lose a friend. All right. Throughout the semester, I'm going to be doing the following. Normally in a classroom, I go like this, the switch is off, click. I think I'll do that. I might do this anyways. And when I do that, there's something I just want to cover that you should know about, but I will never, ever ask on a test. And we're coming to that. So click, next stuff, the switch is off. Will this be on a test? And the answer is no, but you should know about it, or at least be familiar with it. And that's the scientific method. And the scientific method, you don't have to write any of this down because I'll never ask it on a test. And you've got everybody else's witness. I said that. And Dr. White doesn't lie too. That's a good thing. When you look at something, you observe something, you can collect data. And based on that data, you come up with a hypothesis, which is an interpretation of your observations. Oh, by the way, i.e., and I'm missing a period there. I.e. means that is, it's Latin for something, but I forgot what it was, but it means that is the data. And how do you test the hypothesis? You do experiments. And once you do experiments, you can come up with a law. And a law is something that's a statement that's always true. And a synthesizer describes your observations and predicts future ones. I have one here, which let's do a simpler one. Water freezes at 0 degrees C. And you can say at a certain temperature, certain substances that are liquid will become solid. And if you take water and put it below 0 degrees, you'll find out every time, guess what? If it's pure water, it will freeze. And that's the scientific method. Unfortunately, and I shouldn't really say this, certain political party doesn't believe in this anymore. Oops, I'll keep my mouth shut. All right, time for a commercial from Dr. White. It's not in the chapter now, but it's time to talk about this. In chemistry, there's something we call chemical symbols. And those are 1 or 2 letter abbreviations for the names of elements. And I'll teach you what elements are later chapter, but I want to cover this now. When you have a chemical symbol, the first letter of the element is capitalized. If there are 2 letters, the first one is still capitalized and the second one is always lowercase. Now, let me switch over to something. Here's a copy of the periodic table we'll be using in our class. If you notice, it doesn't have any names on there. You need to learn it. If you go on the internet and go to Google, put in periodic table, you can pull up very quickly. Fast. The first one, which is my favorite, is the dynamic periodic table. Let's see if I can pull it up. By the way, I've been a power computer user. I don't want to. All right, everybody see the colorful periodic table? Good, thank you, thumbs up, people. All right, if you look at this, you have all these elements. On this one, it goes up to 103. There are actually more of them now, but most of these I have never used and never will. I'll bet on that. Ooh, I should tell you something personal. If I say I'll bet on that, I already know I've won. Never ever bet with me, because if I say I'll bet, I know I've already won. Well, if we look at that periodic table, you'll see there are 103 elements. There are actually more. I think we're up to 116. But there's certain ones on here that you use in your daily life. Oxygen is one of them. Carbon, your skin's made up of carbon atoms. And oxygen, nitrogen's another one. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine are important. Over here, sodium. I think you've all heard you need calcium for strong bones. So there's certain ones that you do use in your daily life. And good news, Dr. White is a realist. And instead of asking you, like some instructors, to memorize all the elements on the periodic table, know their symbols and their names, these are the ones I'm asking you to learn. I assume everybody can see this right now. Good. Nobody's screaming. An example, you should know Na. That's the chemical symbol for sodium. Another one, C, carbon. Cl is chlorine. You put Na and Cl together and you get table salt, sodium chloride. I'll teach you about that later. Now, on a test, what can I ask? Give the name of the following chemical symbol, and it will only be by these 37. Ooh, let's go to the high rent district. Au, that's gold. So if I ask what's the name of the chemical symbol Au, you'd write down gold. Now, I could also ask, here's the name, write the chemical symbol. And if I ask, what's the chemical symbol for platinum? It's PT. And these are the only 37 I'm asking you to learn. Why am I telling you this now? Because you're not going to memorize this the day before the test. Start now. You're not going to memorize or learn chemistry the day or two before a test. Keep up. That's another piece of advice to you. Follow it, please. So here's this list. Remember, this is on Blackboard, but I see some of you writing it down. So I'm going to take a tea break while you write it down. Does anybody need more time to copy this? One of your colleagues asked, what kind of questions do I have on my test? That's a good question. So let me answer it. All right, and I'll be more specific before the test. I'll tell you how many points, how many questions. Usually test number one, I'll throw in a few multiple choice questions. Dr. White doesn't like all multiple choice tests because those are designed to trick you, not to show me what you've learned. So usually historically on test number one, I'll have about maybe 6 or 7 multiple choice, and the rest are either short answer or a little longer. You've got to show some work and come up with an answer. I will teach you how to do all those things in my lecture. I didn't come up with this, and so I don't like to take credit for somebody else's work, but one of the students told me the one thing they liked about my class was I don't assume students will fill in the blanks, because the student told me in my class there are no blanks, and they were right. On all my tests, every test question, the concept behind that test question, I've covered in Zoom lecture at least twice. Usually it's more. Repetition is good for your grade. Remember, practice makes perfect. But every question, I'll cover the concept at least twice. I don't put on a test ever any question 4 points that I haven't covered in lecture. Now, there's one question I do put on a test that I don't cover in lecture, and that's, what's your name? So these are the key elements. Now, what's the best way to learn these? Well, what I like to do is write down something and say it. H is hydrogen. If you were to write down and look out, it's time for Dr. White to use my drawing tablet. And if I were to ask you, or for you to learn, if you write down this and then put down hydrogen, if you did it again, and when you do it, you say it out loud. By the way, even on a whiteboard at school, if you can't read my handwriting, acceptable question is, what the heck did you just write? But if you write this down, H, hydrogen, do it 5 times and come back and do it another day or two, 5 times. If you do that 2 or 3 times, you'll get these down cold. I found this works for me personally and most students much better than flashcards, where people write their flashcard down, they keep on looking at it. For some reason, when you write it and say it out loud a number of times, you memorize it a lot better. So if you write down H hydrogen, H hydrogen, H hydrogen, H hydrogen, one more, H hydrogen. If I were to go like this, I can just do this. What's the name of the chemical symbol with H? All of you are going to say hydrogen, and that's how it works. Now, it helps that you know this for the semester, because if you don't know this, you're going to lose a lot of points on the test where you need to use this with the periodic table. But for now, this is all you have to know, these 37. So that's my tiny little gift to you today. Now, one of the things I should mention, about almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, I thought about how I was teaching chemistry, general chemistry, and came to the conclusion, should I be testing a person's memory or their ability to do chemistry? And the answer is their ability to do chemistry. So what I've done in both 1105 and 1211 is I've cut down dramatically the amount you have to memorize. Where you have to memorize a lot of formulas, I will now give those to you on each test in the final. And that way I've cut down, I started doing this, and I feel much better, because what I'm really testing is Do you know how to do it? Not. Do you remember the formula for how to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit or back and forth? I'll give that to you, but you do have to know how to use it. See a question? Every lecture I do is going to be on Zoom unless I win the lotto and somebody gives me $1 billion. No, that's not going to happen. But no, everyone, it'll be on YouTube, every lecture. Hopefully by tomorrow morning, probably sometime later this evening, I'll process this, put titles on it, clean up some of it, and then I'll post it on YouTube. Every lecture, I did that this summer and it worked out well. I'll do it again. I think I have 31 YouTube videos in 1211 already from the summer, and I'll add this too. And yes, they will. And anything I show on the screen that's printed, other than my handwriting on the whiteboard on my tablet, which you can go back and look at in YouTube, will be in Blackboard. Actually, it will be. It already is. Hold on one second. I think these are all good questions. Give me a chance to log into Blackboard. All right, can everybody see Blackboard on there now on their screen? Thank you, thumbs up, people. I'm training you well, but it really helps me out. And this is what you should see. This is mine, which I can adjust, but you'll see their announcements, course information, syllabus, instructor, and other things. And down here, you can see this stuff, or no, you can't see that. I made that invisible. And you have places, I don't know if you have this is maybe more for me. And you'll see here, course announcements. Now, what you don't see is, where do I have it here? Somewhere around here. Oh, I know why, because I haven't done one, where I set up assignments. When I see once I set up the first assignment, you'll see a link up here that says assignments. But let's look at course information. If you click on here, you'll see 3 folders. One is lectures, one is practice problems, and the third one is practice problem answers. And if I click on lectures, Blackboard's slow today. It always is the first week of class. You'll see what I'm talking about now. This is what you're seeing the slides for. I also have it as a PDF. And you'll notice I have for the whole semester that. Later on, you'll see at the bottom, I have the periodic table you see me use. I'll talk and go through test 1 reviews. You'll all mention, I'll go through this. What I'll actually put on the test, formulas and stuff you don't have to memorize. And I have that for the whole semester, including the final exam. Now, if we go back to important course information, you'll see practice problems. Two days later, and I don't have any practice problems from chapter 1, but when we get into chapter 2, you'll see the practice problems for 2, 3, and so on. I have them in order. I'll be talking about them, not numerical. And finally, you'll see I have the practice problem answers. So that's all available to you in Blackboard. Like I said, what you don't see up here where my pointer is, what will be, once I set up the first assignment, there'll be a area here you click on, and that will take the assignments. The assignments will be labs. I'll also do my signature sheet, and the test and the final will be there. Worked fine this summer. All right, so again, let me remind you, you're not going to learn this before a day or two before the test. I'm talking about it now because it's my commercial to tell you start learning these. Oh, by the way, Dr. White can be very subtle. And what I mean by know this, you should be able to, given the name, write the chemical symbol. Given the chemical symbol, write the name for the following elements. And it's only these 37. Example would be He, helium, that goes into balloons, so, and other things. And one more I better talk about. Kr is krypton. And I should tell you that unless I was kidnapped to another universe, no, I don't think I was, krypton in our universe is not a green solid that will kill Superman. It's a colorless gas. I've worked with krypton, but I've worked with argon. Worked with a lot of those things on there. All right, so please take this hint. Know this. That's Dr. White being subtle. All right, we've done chapter 1. So guess what time it is? A new chapter, which I'll have to open up. Hang in there. All right, since I've been playing around, can everybody see the slides for chapter 2? Thank you, thumbs up, people. I appreciate all of it. Again, I'm going to try, if anybody knows anybody senior in Zoom, let me know so I can contact them. I tried via email and they never got back to me. All right, this is chapter 2. Let me just do this. And here we'll talk about measurements and problem solving. And measurements, and I'll never ask you what a measurement is the determination of dimensions, capacity, quantity, extent of something. You measure something. How much does that weigh? Now, in chemistry, chemists measure a lot of things. And I'll never ask you this. You don't have to write this down, but it's good to know. We measure something mass, which you also know is weight. Oh, that reminds me. How many of you are planning in the next 3 months leaving the planet, going off planet Earth? No one. All right. Now, there's a philosophical debate. Mass and weight mean different things if you go to planets that have different gravities. But if you're going to stay on the planet, you can use mass and weight interchangeably. By the way, sometimes I have a bad habit of looking at the monitor instead of my webcam. I'll never be on TV as an announcer, but I'm going to use them interchangeably. Some chemists would be yelling at me, you know, you can't. Well, if you're not leaving the planet, yes, you can. And I will, because I'm not leaving the planet. Because I don't have any plans on it. Now, another thing, volume. I think you've all measured using a measuring cup, measure out a cup to a quart of liquid. Length, how long it is, time, temperature, pressure. Concentration means how much of something is in something else. Other physical and chemical properties. Next time you go to a gas station and you see the octane number, that's a chemical property that's measured to gasoline. Something I'll teach you about called pH and many other things. So chemists measure a lot of stuff. Now, one of the important things we use is scientific notation. Scientific notation is a system in which an ordinary decimal number is expressed as a product of a number between 1 and 10 times 10 raised to the power n. And this is how it looks. Now, let me remind you, and I will allow, this number here is never less than 1 or 10 or greater. N can be positive or negative. And one of the skills you should do is understanding scientific notation. So let's look at, and hint, you should know this. And what I mean by know this is not to regurgitate what I have on the screen, but know how to do this, and we'll practice it. Now, when you're converting a regular number to a scientific notation number, the decimal point in the decimal number is moved to the position behind, or sometimes called, I use, to the right of the first non-zero number. And the exponent for the exponential term n is equal to the number of places the decimal point is moved. The exponent is positive if your number is greater than 10, and is negative, the exponent n is negative if the number is less than 1. It's 0 if the number is between 1 and 10. I'd never put that on a test. So let's look at how to do this. Hopefully everybody sees the whiteboard. Let's look at this number, 1,253. How do you write it in scientific notation? Well, if there were a decimal point, it would be there. We got to move it to the right of the first non-zero number. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3. Now, how many times did I move it? So the number of times you moved it is what n is. And that would be 10 to the third. I see a couple of questions. All right. I should have asked the thumbs up people, and this happens in Blackboard. Can you see the numbers now? All right. If you can, because when I'm in share, I don't even see chat most of the time. But anyways, let's go through it again. For those who didn't see it, because Zoom messed me up, we're looking at the number 1,253. Decimal point would be here if there were one. For scientific notation, you move it to the right of the first number. Ooh, how many times do we move it? 1, 2, 3. So this would be the number in front, then it would be times 10, and you use the exponent for the number 3. Oh, let's do another one. This was fun. How would you write this in scientific notation? Let's take a look. If there were a decimal point, it would be there. You move it to the right of the first number. 1, 2, 3, 4. Zeros at the end, you ignore. So this would be 4.65 when there's no decimal. I'll talk more about that today or on Thursday. Now, how many times do we move it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be 10 to the fourth. And that's how you do it. Oh, you know something? Dr. White likes to share. I don't want to hog all the fun. So why don't you try this one? Why don't you write that in scientific notation so you can have some fun too? If I say fun enough, you might believe it's fun. All right, now if I were in a class right now, what I would normally do is when you're done, look up and smile. But since you're on the internet, not all of you have your video or don't have video, give me a thumbs up either with when you're done or not. And when most of the class is done, because I try and give everybody time to do it, because not all of you work at the same speed. Some of you are faster than others, and I try and give everybody time to figure it out. All right, I'll give you 3.8 more seconds. 1, 2, 3, 3.2, 3.7, 3.8, time's up. All right, let's do it. If there was a decimal point, it would be here. Scientific notation, you move it to the right of the first non-zero number. So I'm going to move it over here. How many times do you move it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Zeros at the end. You ignore. So I have 3.7 times 10. How many times did I move it? 6. Now, I should tell you something about Dr. White. I write my sevens like this. Yeah, let me do a better one. Why? Because in high school, I had a German teacher from Germany, and he'd write his sevens that way. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And ever since that high school class, that's how I've been writing my sevens, which is a German or European way of doing that. So that's how you do scientific notation. Now, let's look at a number less than 1. Original number. Now, this is less than 1, and you do the same thing. You move the decimal point to the right of the first non-zero number. 1, 2, 3. Now, if there are any zeros when it's less than 1 past here, you keep it, but they're not. So that would be 3.45. Now, when this number is less than 1, 10 is to the minus. Notice I moved that 1, 2, 3. So this would be 3.45 times 10 to the minus 3. When it's greater than 10, this number is positive. When it's less than 10, this number is minus. And let's do another one. And this number is less than 1. I want to move the decimal point here to the right of the first non-zero number, 1, 2. So that'd be 5.4 times 10. It's less than 1, so it's going to be minus. How many times did I move it? 1, 2. So it's minus 2. Oh, I've got to share the fun, let you have 1 or 2 tries at this. Why don't you write that in scientific notation? And remember, when you're done, give me a thumbs up if you're in the mood for it. Well, I'm looking at my clock and I'm saying, time flies when you're having fun with chemistry. So everybody just about done? All right, let's do it. All right, how do you write this in scientific notation? Here's the decimal. You want to put it to the right of the first non-zero number. I'm assuming you know what the 0 is. I think you all do. So I move it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times to there. I moved it 5 times. So I have 6.49 times 10 is less than 0. So this is a minus, and that would be 5. Now, in the past, what I've asked students to do, if you have scientific notation, write it out. And in real life, you really don't do that, because scientific notation is a way of writing a number that's big in an easier way. An important number, which you'll learn later in the semester, it's called Avogadro's number, is this, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And would you want to have to write 602 and then 21 more zeros after that? No, I don't want it. This is quicker. And that's why how scientific notation works. Now, when we get to it, I will show you how to use your calculator with scientific notation. And that's how you do scientific notation. Now, we did some practice. Now, I have here 10 to the A times 10 to the B equals 10 to the A plus B. And this also, you don't have to know that because your calculator does that. Does anybody know what a slide rule is? I should have brought mine up. When I went to school, like undergrad, we didn't have calculators. Yeah, we had TV and electricity, but we didn't have calculators. It wasn't until graduate school, my 3rd year, that HP came out with the first actual handheld calculator. But anyways, so use what was known as a slide rule, and those things I just showed you needed to know. I see some questions coming up. Oh, I see people putting that. Thank you for putting your answers on there. And I have a surprise for you. You're learning chemistry, and hopefully it's not that painful. So I told you chemistry is fun. Now, an important thing that you have learned about, but you will now, is when you measure something, how long is that piece of rope? How much liquid do you have in that container? What's the temperature in your room? And we measure things. And when you measure things, you obtain numbers. And numbers you obtain when you measure quantities such as weight and this thing. Now, there's always uncertainty in a measurement. In any measurement, the last digit is uncertain, and it's the only uncertain. If you're looking in the books, then let me do something right now. Oh, I should warn you, warning, I'll never go to art school. I don't have any inkling, even though my mother was a very good amateur artist, never rubbed off on me. So when you see me do artwork, feel free to laugh your head off if it doesn't look good. Well, let's assume we have a piece of string or rope here. And you have a ruler. Let's assume this is inches. And let's assume this is, I don't know, I'm just writing numbers 10 and it's 11. And you'd say, well, this is a little longer than 10 and less than 11. So what would I measure it? It's about halfway. I'll call that 10.5. Now, if you had a ruler that was more accurate, it still might not line up to exact line on the ruler, and you'd have to estimate the last one. And any measurement, the last number of that measurement is uncertain. So measurements are not always, this is it. There's uncertainty in measurements. By the way, you can laugh now, it's permitted. Just don't fall off your chair and hurt yourself. Now, when we talk about measurements, there are two types of numbers you can measure. One are called significant figures. And I'll never ask on a test what a significant figure is, but I'll use that term so you should know. Those are the digits in any measurement that are known with certainty plus one digit that's uncertain. You think, what the heck is that? Well, I'll explain it either today, we'll get into this, or on Thursday, because I see my clock is ticking. Actually, it's digital and it doesn't tick, but it's moving along. And here, we also have exact numbers. Those are numbers obtained by counting items or numbers used in a definition. Now, why do we say exact numbers are different from significant figures? Because significant figures, you can have some uncertainty. Exact numbers, you can't. If I were to ask you, if we were in a classroom, count all the people who are alive in this room, you can't come up with a number. There's 22.5 people alive in this room. It's either 22 or 23. That's an exact number. But if you measured the distance, then the last thing, which would be a significant figures, you have to guess. And that last digit is uncertain. So those exist, significant figures and exact numbers. Now, one of the questions you might ask, and it's always a good question in my class, is, why am I learning this stuff? Well, the obvious answer is you want to get a good grade on the test, so you do good in my class because you want to get into that course or program or school that needs Chem 1211. But in real life, for significant figures, they actually play a role, and I'll tell you a story on Thursday, not today, in legal documents, yes, contracts. And I'll tell you the story of how my knowledge of significant figures saved the company I was working for $200,000. And that's a lot of money in my book. And so are significant figures important? Well, $200,000 worth on that situation, it was. So we have significant figures and exact numbers. Now, how do we find how many significant figures are in a measurement? And there are rules for that. If I look at the clock, I'm going to do something. I hope you don't tell anybody. But I'm going to let you out a minute or two early because it doesn't make sense to rush now and cover something I'm going to cover again. So with that, let me remind you, we're going to have a Zoom lecture on Thursday. I'll also, between now and then, post a lab. It's a safety lab that you're to do before next Thursday. You don't need the chemical kit for that. Also, what I'm doing now will be posted by tomorrow morning, hopefully later early evening, on YouTube. You have the address of my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, put in CHEMI space 1211 space COD, and it'll take you there. And finally, it's time for me to teach you something. How many of you know what Yiddish is? Yiddish is a language that's a mixture of Hebrew and German, spoke by people who are Jewish in Eastern European countries. My grandparents came from those, and my parents spoke it, and I know it. And I'm going to do some Yiddish right now. It's time to go. It's time for you to run away. So I'm going to say, Gehen gesund. I'm done. Gehen gesund means be healthy. And it's a very strong thing you say when you're leaving someone who you care about, because you're telling them, you know, be healthy. So Gehen gesund. I'll see you on Thursday. You have to remember this is Tuesday, Thursday, not Wednesday. I'm teaching another school tomorrow. With that, I'm done. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple minutes. Don't forget, start learning the elements of the periodic table. Bye. For those who know the Beverly Hillbillies, Granny used to do that.